Mayu Atsuki could never understand why Takeshi was willing to give so much for Shiki, to the point of sacrificing everything. As the clash grew louder, more and more civilians began to gather in the streets. Continuing the fight would only cause greater chaos. In the end, Mayu dissolved into black mist and disappeared. Takeshi knew very well that he could no longer stay by Shiki's side. At the very end of his life, he made only one request. He wanted Shiki to become strong enough to never lose to Momotaro, and never lose to the demon blood flowing through his veins. Only then, he believed, would Shiki be able to protect the people he truly cared about. Shiki wanted to apologize for the words. "We're not related by blood." But before he could say anything, Takeshi's life came to an end. At that moment, a stranger suddenly appeared, and launched a surprise attack on Shiki. At the same time, 5 mummies were coldly condemning Mei. Failing against a demon who had just awakened was unacceptable in their eyes. It made them question whether the Momotaro organization had grown weak. Shiki never expected that. Even after awakening his demon lineage, after learning to control his blood and turn it into weapons, and even after overpowering executioners, whose job was to hunt demons, he would still be utterly helpless before a true powerhouse. Only then did he realize how cruel the gap in strength really was. His proudest attack was effortlessly stopped and crushed with just a single finger. When Shiki woke up again, he found himself tightly bound. The man introduced himself as Mu, a demon just like him. Mu had taken Shiki away to reclaim and evaluate him, to see whether he was worthy of standing against the Momotaro organization. Shiki already knew how ruthless Momotaro was. Their goal was simple: to wipe out every demon in existence. That was why demons had formed their own organization. But Shiki barely listened to any of this. All he wanted was to go back and avenge his adoptive father. In Mu's eyes, that desire was nothing more than a meaningless death wish. So Mu chose the most straightforward test. The next second, he wrapped his tie tightly around Shiki's neck. On the brink of death, a creature's true instincts are laid bare. If Shiki couldn't break free, the outcome would be death. With his limbs restrained, Shiki quickly began bleeding from his eyes, ears, nose, and mouth, before losing consciousness. Just as Mu was about to give up, the blood on the ground suddenly surged, launching wild attacks in all directions. To Mu, losing control meant an inability to truly master demon power. A test like this shouldn't even continue. Shiki, completely berserk, attacked with lethal force, enough to kill an ordinary person instantly. But Mu was no ordinary opponent. Shiki had no memory while out of control, guided purely by instinct. He sensed how overwhelmingly strong the man before him was. In the end, he dropped to his knees and begged Mu to take him in, asking only for the power to take revenge. But to Mu, Shiki was nothing more than a failed product, who couldn't control his own power. Losing control meant he would eventually be eliminated anyway. As he spoke, Mu sliced his finger open. The blood gathered in midair, forming a crimson umbrella. Sensing death closing in, Shiki made one final gamble. Using the blood on the ground, he forced himself forward, transformed his arm into a gun barrel, and fired at Mu. The explosion echoed through the space. Shiki was blasted backward. When the smoke cleared, Mu stood unharmed, catching the bullet with a single finger, and crushing it effortlessly. Shiki, meanwhile, was still teetering on the edge of losing control. Just as Mu was about to end everything, the raging blood suddenly retreated. Through an emotional outburst, Shiki had forcibly suppressed the berserk state. The